And it should be working. Yes, subtitles great. Hello, everyone. Hello, 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 hello. My name is Fiona. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with sort of terrible hair, with sort of mid-blondie, brownie, mid-length hair, wearing a quite snazzy, if I do say so, like a little bit of a rugby shirt, like a sort of a white and red dark stripes, and of course my Lucian Yaks. And this is Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPGs, in which well, basically an accountability stream. Sorry, it's been a little while, so all my words are all different. In which we read a TTRPG, whether we got it from the Bookshelf of Doom or from the Google Drive of Mystery. I hope you folks are doing well. Hello, Evil Bread. On 2 different platforms, I see. Oh, well, thank you very much appreciate it. Hopefully it's double the fun. How is everyone today? I am tired, forever tired. I had a bit of a slump last week, in the last couple of days. This thing is getting cancelled last minute, and it's one thing I hate is people cancelling stuff like me. Never. Sure, I won't tell anyone, Evil Bread, don't worry. But yes, a bit of a slump last week, things getting cancelled last minute, and I don't know about anyone else. Like, I don't mind things getting cancelled, but for, things happen, totally, and I very much respect that. But sometimes you're just like going like, well, now what I'm going to do? I'm evil, not helpful. I apologise. I thank you for your evil help. How's that? Yeah, and so I'm just a bit like, as a result. But I think it's also a mixture of, like, it's winter, so instantly it's dark. As soon as you get into, like, end of November, December, and January, nothing happens, because everyone obviously goes away for holidays and are busy with family stuff, which is totally, again, absolutely understandable. He's my worst twin. Ah, I see. And so it's really hard to get anything scheduled or done, just because you're going to be busy, not doing very much, and everyone else is going to be exactly the same thing, but obviously we have to be present, so yes. But yeah, more views to feed the algorithm. Well, I very much appreciate it. It is like a little thing, especially when I'm terrible at promoting these streams. Yeah, but otherwise feeling good. Got to get ready for various things happening at the end of this week. Obviously, we've got Thanksgiving here, which will be it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be just nice to just eat lots of food and hopefully not talk about politics, she says. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get started with today's Too Long Didn't Read. Today, friends, we are going to be looking at the Discworld Quickstart from Modiphius. Again, something that's been on my list for like the last month or so, ever since it was announced, and then they had the Kickstarter, and then the Kickstarter funded, and of course for various reasons where I just had to keep moving it back, because just because life got in the way. But now I've got a lovely chance to actually now sit down and read it, because I've heard wonderful things about it. There's been a couple of actual plays as well. I know Modiphius did an actual play on their channel. I know that Oxventure did an actual play as well using this particular quick start, so it's all good. Kieran, hello, just coming in now. We'll be sewing whilst listening. Oh, fantastic. And Evil Bread says, happy that this game was created, but the Kickstarter is terrible. Hello, Sam. Nice to see you. Interesting, Kieran. I've actually started, I'll show you secretly because I know they're not going to be watching. I've actually been making a way to sort of like do something that's not doom scrolling. I've been making little friendship bracelets for a few people I'm seeing hopefully later this week. Are they good? No. Will they fit? Probably not. But you know what? I very much appreciate the craft and stuff. I've been doing it whilst watching Only Murders in the Building, which has been quite nice to do. So that's my sort of crafting thing. Yes, so let's talk about Discworld Quickstart. So I'm going to say this up front, okay? And I need everyone to just properly sit down. I have never read a Discworld book. Well, that's a kind of a lie. I've read one. I've read Guard's Guard, and it was very good. But I didn't grow up with the Discworld sort of like obsession or of fandom, so to speak. And I know. What? I know. It's one of those things, and I'm going to tell you exactly why it is the case. And this is, that whole thing of like you shouldn't judge a book by its cover is exactly that, because people will remember what growing up when Discworld was coming out, they had those really sort of what I would consider old-fashioned, like muddy covers. It's like lots of little people on it. It was just a lot of flesh tones and lots of it just looked very busy. And to me, I was like, oh, these look rubbish. No, thank you. And so I didn't read them as a result. And I know that's bad. And they've got much better covers now. They look so much nicer. They've got the proper here's ones for the adults, all that sort of thing. And I know. And I really liked Guards. When I finally read it, I really enjoyed it. But I've yet to go for the motivation to start reading them. And I know people say, don't start with The Colour of Magic. I tried to read Colour of Magic. Rubbish. You either love Pratchett or you hate his work, so no worries, I love his books. So the thing is that I do like Pratchett. I read Good Omens, and I thought that was really good, with obviously the person that has been cancelled. We don't need to talk about him at all. But I kind of liked the idea of them being together, and I loved his passion for writing. Like, he was always really well spoken in interviews, and I loved the idea of the world from what I know of it. So this is me sort of doing the stuff at the beginning, saying like I'm not a big Discworld fan, but I know a lot about it, and I appreciate there's a lot of love about it. And so I'm going in, I know I'm going to pronounce things wrong. I know I'm going to I'd be like, who's this person? They're like, this is a very key character. But this is the thing, right? Is this Quickstart, which is based on, a very popular, very, fan favorite IP, is it got a good system to draw in the fans, but also brand new people as well? So that's what I'm sort of coming from this point of view for this particular Quickstart. So I'm going to apologise in advance because I really don't know anything about Discworld. So you like his humour? Yeah, I think the writing. So like I said, sorry, I got a cat in the way. Put the cat here. So I really like the writing style of Guards. I really enjoyed it, but I just feel like I'm overwhelmed by how many books there are, and like I'm hearing that some of them aren't as good as the others, and you got to read them in a certain order and all that sort of thing. Like, again, I think it's one of those things. Like, I think it's maybe similar with the Harry Potter stuff, if I may speak about that. Like, growing up with Harry Potter and with each book being released as you were growing up, that felt so special. What a cool phenomena. I think it's the same thing with Terry Pratchett. These books kept coming out, and so you were growing up with the books and growing up with the characters, and I think I've just missed the train, unfortunately. That's when his cat attack. Unfortunately, she's going to be a menace as we're going to talk about this sort of stuff. Anyway, so that's the first thing. The second thing is it's Modiphius. Now, I appreciate we've talked about Modiphius stuff before. Usually they're very well known for their 2D20 system, so Star Trek Adventures, all that sort of thing. And the system itself, that particular system, I'm not the biggest fan of either, but I know it's not necessarily the same thing for this one. So again, I'm going in completely without reading any of this stuff beforehand, so I'm really excited at that front. So that's my big disclaimer out of the way. Other disclaimers: I'm not a game designer. I've read a lot of games. I've run a lot of games, but at the same time, I've not, I wouldn't say I've designed or created anything that is worthy of maybe, I don't know, a Kickstarter, etc. So all the stuff I'm about to say, and especially, and obviously this goes into the Discworld stuff as well, is more of a critique than a criticism. I mean, it's sort of like, I want to look and be like, oh, this is really interesting. Will this help me run the game? Will this help me play the game? That sort of thing. Secondly, obviously I've not been sponsored by Modiphius to look at this Quickstart. The Quickstart is free. I'll make sure I'll hang on, Quickstart, so people can, it is free to get from the Modiphius website. You do have to buy it in a sense, but it is free. It's not one of those ones you can just download easily, which I do find a little bit annoying, personally speaking, but it's just the way it is. And you can read out the full thing on the Kickstarter as well, of the sort of what they're planning to do, etc., because now it is fully funded. But as I said, they've not asked me to do this. It's just been on the list because everyone's been talking about it for such a long time. And then finally, content warnings. Again, it's sort of fantasy, hijinks galore, that sort of thing, so I doubt there'll be anything that's necessarily triggering or anything like that, but of course if something does come up, I'll also mention it, and please feel free, you don't have to stay for the stream if you don't feel like you wish to partake anymore. That is absolutely fine. What have we said here? Evil Bread says, the system's narrative, it's a narration die. It doesn't require you to know the books, but it will help you enjoy it much more. Yes, that is the vibe I sort of got from people talking about it and reviewing it when I sort of had a quick look at stuff. So yeah, like I said, I'm going into this completely sort of fresh to both Discworld and to this Quickstart. I had a quick look beforehand to see what it was like, just to make sure we could do it in the time we have. So we're going to spend roughly about an hour, maybe an hour and a half going through it. And yeah, we'll go from there. So, go away from Big Fiona face, because nobody likes that. And that's why I love to get the demos of Quickstarts from this Dry-Fruit RPG. So yes, and it's interesting compared to, say, the last one we did, which was the Electric State, which didn't have a Quickstart. And I've already gone. This is why you should always check these things beforehand. Let's try that again. It's interesting how okay, this is the Quickstart to give that taster, to give that sort of thing. So let's go to the Modiphius website and check out what we have. What would it be selling to people who maybe don't know much about Discworld or Terry Pratchett's work, etc. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit because, good lord, Modiphius' website is just. I know it's generic. I know it's fun, but God, this is the thing I really hate, is that and Modifius does it, and loads of other different RPG websites do it. They do this thing where they've got a really nice big picture. They've got what it is up here, but then the actual information is underneath the thing. And I don't know if that's a mobile optimization thing. I don't know. I just feel like you have the image on the right and then all the text all the image on the left and the text on the right. That's how I feel. But anyway, so let's read the marketing copy. We always do this to see like how they are selling it. What's the sort of what we're getting as sort of the bite size, like here's something that you should look at sort of thing, which not many RPGs do that. In this pun-filled quick start adventure for Discworld Adventures in Ankh-Morpork, a number of dragons have been stolen from Lady Sybil Ramkin's Sunshine Sanctuary. Oh, I recognise that name. But why? What sort of monster could have stolen these little darlings, and for what purpose? As an intrepid band of watchmen, you are charged by Commander Vimes to find out. While avoiding causing any harm to honest people of Ankh-Morpork, acting with the utmost professionalism, and crucially avoiding any more paperwork than absolutely necessary. All two of them in terms of the honest one. See, I like the slight humour writing there is quite good. Okay, so it's just telling us about the adventure itself, which I guess is totally fine because that's what it is, a quick start adventure at its heart. So this 47 page, which is quite a good page count, isn't it? It includes the essential rules for the narrativium system, which has been built specifically for Discworld Adventures in Ankh-Morpork. Okay, interesting. Adventure up to 5 players, designed to introduce players and game masters alike to the occasionally delightful world of Discworld, and a quick background on Discworld in general and Ankh-Morpork in particular. Nice. And we've got 5 generated characters. Brilliant. So, and a handy player reference sheet. Oh, okay. So far, all good in that sort of sense of like we've got the rules, we've got an adventure, we've got some quick gen, and a little bit of a primer as well. Very useful. And like I said, it is free to download it. And I'm not going to look at the Kickstarter so much. Again, you can look at it in your own time if you wish to back it. I think there's some late pledges open if you wish to, but they have gone into that whole thing of like the actual like very deluxe version of the books with certain like special dice and all that sort of thing. But I'm always of the opinion of like get the PDF and see if you like it first, rather than like dishing out for a lot of money on books, especially in this time and this sort of time in the world. The quick start is well made. Oh, excellent. Well, I'm excited to look at it. Maybe if we go to the actual thing. So let's turn over. So here we go. So here's the very absolutely gorgeous cover. I really like it. And again, it sort of baffles me that, back in the day, I appreciate, I do not know who the illustrator's name, and I don't wish to be like, I don't like their work, but like those old covers of the Discworld books, were just full of people like running and fighting, and it felt very busy. I'm quite glad that they've not gone with that, and they've gone for this very nice sort of like, not ethereal, but sort of like very beautiful colours, like very muted, like this beautiful sort of like space thing. Obviously, we've got the turtle at the back, and they've got these 2 beautiful dragons, the teeny tiny one there. I feel like most of us are going to take inspiration from Guard's Guard, or certainly from the Watchmen stories, right? So we have, at the top here, we've got Terry Pratchett's Discworld Adventures in Ankh-Morpork Quick Start. But that's all we have in terms of text on the page. I will say, there is no alt text, which is always a shame. I would expect better of Modifius, but these things happen, especially for quick starts. There is also no mention that it is Modifius on the page as well. Again, a small little logo at the bottom would just be helpful, because again, people might not, again, it's that sort of thing. Is like if it's taken out of context, where could people find it? And it's just like eliminating any barriers or any challenges that people might want to find getting it. Now, I know obviously the next page it's going to say Modifius, and there's going to be lots of credits for it as well. This quick start. Do you dislike Paul Kirby's art too? So Paul Kirby is the person who's done all this art for the book. No, I really like this art. I just don't. What I was comparing it to is that my initial experience with Discworld was of the original sort of that sort of like really grimy sort of like muted browns and greens colors of all the various things, and now they have this sort of like much more sort of like cleaner lines. It's not as many people. It doesn't feel as busy, and this is really nice as a result. Unsub. Fair enough. So yeah, so let's move ahead. So like I said, this is 47 pages. A lot of this is the quick start, which we're not, a lot of this is the adventure, and we're not going to look into the adventure in great detail. For me, what's more important is like the sort of core mechanics, what we're looking at here. So it's about half of the adventure, I think it sort of says here. We've got the credits. Again, so many people that's worked on this, and obviously part of Modificus Entertainment, which is nice. Teeny tiny, yeah, the Paul Kirby. Oh, Kidby, sorry, Kidby, not Kirby. I keep thinking of Will Kirby, that's why. I like the sort of the patterning of the page, so it's not purely just a white page. You can see like a little bit of texture going on there. It's quite nice. And contents, excellent. So what have we got here? So we've got introduction, so it's going to be our little primer. We've got playing the game, and then Up in Smoke, and that is the sort of the main adventure that you'd be running people through. So that's, we've got what 21 pages of content for us to look at today, so that's pretty good. And then you've got the pre-generated characters and the reference sheet as well. Nice. Look at that beautiful image there of the sort of turtle flying through space with the 4 elephants, and then the sort of the disc of the world on top of it. It's gorgeous. Again, wouldn't it be nice if there was alt text? Because otherwise people might not see this. So that is a shame. All right, introduction. I do like the headings, which are screen readable. Just having a quick look at that. That's good. Have I spelled introduction wrong, or am I being... Oh, it's the T's over there for some reason. Okay, that's really weird. I thought they spelled introduction wrong at the top there. All right, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Hello, Euphoria. How are you doing, my friend? Nice to have you here. I'm reading your favourite Discworld. So, let's start. What is Discworld? So in a distant and second-hand set of the dimensions, in an astral plane that was never meant to fly, the curling star mists waver and part. See, the great Atun, the turtle comes swimming slowly through the interstellar gulf, hydron frost on his ponderous limbs, his huge and ancient shell pocked with meteor crates. Through sea-size eyes that are crusted with rime and asteroid dust, he stares fixedly at the destination. Darcy be on the right account challenge. Hey, it's always the same. I never know which account I'm on. I agree that Paul has cleaner art, but Josh has some charm too. That is absolutely fair. That is fair. In a brain bigger than a city, with geological slowness, he thinks only of the weight. Most of the weight is, of course, accounted by Beryllia, Tubal, and the Great Typhon and Jacarine, the 4 giant elephants who, upon broad and star-tanned shoulders, the disc of the world rests, garlanded by the long waterfall, at its vast circumference and domed by a baby blue vault of heaven. The Colour of Magic. Bloody Colour of Magic. Not a great book. So Discworld is the setting... Oh, sorry, Fancy Alice. The Discworld is the setting for the novels penned, or at least typed, by Sir Terry Pratchett. These novels are present on nearly every fantasy reader's shelf. Not mine. And many a charity shop one too. All right, you heading off, Fancy Alice? All right, bye. She's not interested in Discworld either. It is a world built on stories with fuzzy geography and unreliable chronology. An unreliable chronology. Oh God, chronology. It is a place where characters try to live their day-to-day lives, but are forever interrupted by the needs of a narrative. A place where dwarves look askance at trolls, vampires look askance at werewolves, and citizens of Ankh-Morpork mostly just want to get through one single day without being looked askance at. Hi, I love your channel. Oh, thank you, my friend. The cat is always right. Well, I don't know. She's currently cleaning herself, so it's probably not interested. Discworld is a setting where gods play the games with the lives of men, and on a board which is at one or another the same... Oh, hang on. Try that again. Discworld is a setting where the gods play games with the lives of men, on a board which is at one and the same time a simple playing area and the whole world, to quote Interesting Times. While you may not be gods, Adventures in Ankh-Morpork certainly allow you to play games with the lives of humans, dwarves, trolls, gargoyles, igors, zombies, and a whole plethora of other weird and wonderful creatures that called the disc home. Well, maybe not the whole disc, but certainly that stinking part of it that slumps on the stone plains known as Ankh-Morpork. Discworld is a setting that has a special place in many hearts and imaginations all over round world. It is our unbelievable privilege to bring that world to life on tabletops, both physical and virtual, for fans for old and new. We hope we've done it justice. Nice. Okay. Fair enough. Oh, let me try to have a drink first. So squatting on the dark loam of stone plains, surrounded by cabbage fields as far as the eye can see, and bisected by the river Ankh, which can only be called a river because it moves slightly faster than the surrounding land, this ancient city has stood for thousands of years. Built and rebuilt upon itself, it has weathered invasions by letting invaders in, making them its own and robbing them blind in the process. Several wars and too many fires to count, owing to the time-honoured Morporkian tradition of building out of tinder, dry wood, and thatch waterproof with pitch. What? Sorry. Owing to that time-honoured Morporkian tradition of building out of tinder, dry wood, and thatch waterproofed with pitch. Okay. I'm sure there's some punctuation missing there. I understand it's built out of tinder, dry wood, and thatch, which is waterproof with pitch. The city thrives under the careful administrations of the patrician Lord Veterinary. One of his most enlightened moves was to encourage the Thieves Guild to come out of the shadows and into the public eye, taking their place at civic banquets and in the smooth running of the city, with the reasoning that if you were going to have crime, it might as well be organised crime. And the city does run. It shouldn't, but it does. Veterinary has managed to convince the guilds that he is slightly preferable to any other option. Since his inauguration as patrician, the city has seen many changes, including the resurgence of the Watch. Having at one point dwindled to a handful of unemployables, no one in their right mind would take seriously, it is now an efficient policing force led by Commander Sir Samuel Vimes. This thin brown smear stands between the fine and upstanding citizens of Ankh-Morpork and themselves, and any unlicensed thieves, of course. And there's a little footnote here. In fact, the best an unlicensed thief can hope for is to be caught by the Watch. Those caught by the Thieves Guild tend to experience an extremely pointed, or very blunt, version of justice, depending on whatever the guild has to hand at the time. Annual subscription to the Thieves Guild is much safer and cheaper. Well, if they are organised, it makes sense. The Watch keeps the peace, and although very few know where, and how, and now the guild. Oh, sorry, my brain is not with me today. The Watch keeps the peace, although very few know where. And now the guilds spend slightly more time plotting against each other than they do against the Patrician. And now everything works. Mostly. And then we've got another image of that tiny dragon. Presumably, I seem to remember this from Guards. I think this is that dragon from Guards, right? That ate lots of stuff and then just basically did a massive fart and defeated things. I think that's what it is. So they're sort of shooting off into the sky, and we can see sort of the old sort of thatched, sort of roofs. They're very much like almost like Shakespearean. I always want to say this sort of thatched sort of way of making houses. Yes, says Evil Bread, so I'll take that. But when is now? Ankh-Morpork has a long and sordid history in which there have been infinite nows, but we're not concerned with those old nows. We only care about the present now. Now is the turn of the century of the anchovy. The century of the fruit bat saw many social and technological leaps forward, or at least sideways, for the people of Ankh-Morpork. They were landed on by dragons and saw multiple assassination attempts of important figures, not least of which were the patrician and Sir Samuel Vimes. This year we look forward to the looming anniversary of Coombe Valley, in brackets, the only battle in history where both sides ambushed the other, and one of the many reasons for the ancient grudge between dwarfs and trolls. Already this is a very British Warhammer Hitchhiker's Guide. I'm guessing it is. Good. Okay, so it's not. Yeah, it's. I definitely that's the sort of vibe. Again, the tone of it feels very Douglas Adams as well, and that's probably why, because I really do like Douglas Adams' writing and Terry Pratchett's writing. So yeah, definitely has that sort of vibe. Ankh-Morpork has grown from a place near permanently on fire to a thriving metropolis inhabited by species of all different and wonderful shapes and sizes. What's the which is now only sometimes on fire. For those familiar with the Discworld novels, this particular now sits somewhere around the events of Going Postal and Thud. Oh, okay. I've heard of Going Postal. Coombe Valley Coombe Valley looms ahead like an iceberg. The Grand Trunk Semaphore Company grinds the clacks into the ground in the name of profit, and a certain conman named by doting, if unwise parents, piles his trade with no fault of angels. This is the now of Adventures in Ankh-Morpork tone. Our aim with this game is to bring that core, indefinable Discworldiness to your tabletop. The focus here isn't on delving into dungeons or fighting dragons. Oh, there's a footnote. Swamp dragons are rather too small to offer much of a fight for a start. Combine this with their inclination to explode if startled, and you got a recipe for some very disappointed and slightly singed adventurers milling around, sheepishly picking bits of dragon out of their hair. Nor will you be moving 30 feet and dealing 12 damage to a monster. There are no rules for combat. Whoa, oh, yes, I like that. I'm great. Whilst violence and combat are commonplace in Ankh-Morpork, the combat is never a point of the story. The focus is on the characters, the world, and the words. People are defined by traits, not numbers. The world and the players vie to control the story via the narrativium sluices, finally through. The world and the players vie to control the story as narrativium sluices finally through everything, gently pushing things towards a satisfying conclusion. Finally, we encourage players to bend the English language far beyond what is usually considered reasonable. Terry Pratchett used words in ways that were unexpected, in combinations and meanings that were playful, joyful, and often unreasonable. We heartily encourage you to do the same. The more awful the puns, the better. You see, I thought it was going to be about pronunciation, so I felt really vindicated then. But it's blooming puns. I hate it. So British humour, yes, but Warhammer, no. But the classic sort of Warhammer of Warhammer fantasy, like that sort of the vibe of it, absolutely like fits in. Not necessarily the politics of it. I think that's what they're getting at. Puns for days. No, thank you. I'm terrible with puns. Safety tools. So a plethora of safety tools are available for budding RPG players. For those unaware or uninitiated, safety tools are tools to keep you safe at the table. A less facetious explanation is that these are ways in which everyone at the table can ensure that everyone else is having a good time. No person, in brackets player or GM, should ever feel uncomfortable or upset at the table. Characters can get uncomfortable and upset, but the people around the table should be enjoying the story, not wishing they could be somewhere else. To this end, there are many more resources that we can cover here. One main method is to discuss potentially upsetting topics before the game begins and outline whether each player is okay with them being on-screen, off-screen, or not included at all. These are known as lines and veils. In brackets, Ron Edwards. How interesting! Like it's actually mentioned what the tool is, and actually crediting that person as well in the same breath. We often don't get that. And more information can be found online. Another is the X card system. That's John's. I always say their name wrong, so apologies, John. Oh, and the cat's back. John Stavropoulos. Which involves giving each player a card or another item to hold up when the game is straying into uncomfortable territory. If a player holds up an X card, the GM moves on from the scene without need for further discussion. Many other safety tools can be found online. I would say that's not necessarily the case with the X card, but I get it. Like, they're trying to keep it short and simple for this particular quick start. Are you okay, Fancy Honest? You're just hanging out? Okay. The main thing to remember is talk to each other. Have a discussion before play to make sure that everyone is on the same page, and if anything becomes uncomfortable, stop the game. No explanation is necessary in the moment. Just ask for a break or for a rewind, or however your group has chosen to handle sensitive topics. You're all people, and you should treat each other's boundaries with respect. Remember that these tools are there to ensure that everyone is enjoying themselves. Yeah, you bit me then, didn't you? That's my safety tool gone. Go on, off you go. So funny when and I'm like, oh, everyone should talk to each other. And she just goes, bite on my wrist. I'm like, oof, painful. All right. Wow. Things like, oh, hello, Ben. How are you doing, my friend? Nice to have you. But this system encourages puns and wordplay. So, oh well, I will instantly be bad at the system as a result. Like feels like the beginning of a new era. Why new eras? I wonder, is that because of the hang on, get going, Fancy Alice, thank you. Is that because of this the safety tools explanation? Because I do think, I feel like this, we've talked about safety tools, and obviously a lot of RPGs now do mention safety tools, but they don't mention them by name. They just say that there's plenty of safety tools, like look online. Thank you, Fancy Alice. Wait, thank you. What are you doing? Or is it and then name them or something like that? But it just feels interesting to me that they've just named them and credited them. It would be nice to have a link, of course, but I appreciate it as a quick start. Anyway, let's move on. Are you done? Ben says, yeah, safety tools and credit for the safety tools in the big IP. Yes, absolutely. Well, because this is the thing. I think I mentioned it. Dungeons & Dragons, their 50th anniversary, DM's Guide talks a lot about expectations in that first chapter. It's a really good chapter, but they don't mention the tools by name. They indicate stuff to talk about on screen and off screen, etc. But actually naming them and crediting them, they don't do it. And it's really interesting. So now that Modiphius has sort of done it in a big IP, it's very interesting. Now, obviously, Free League have done that in other of their games as well. They sort of mentioned it, but they didn't necessarily credit the person. So again, it's that sort of thing where it's nice to always mention safety tools and give credit where you can. Usually, and also encourage people to look up and the TTRPGs safety toolkit as well, because there's all sorts of stuff in there which is really useful. So, what is a role-playing game? So before we get into the rules themselves, it's worth taking a step back and asking what a role-playing game is. So an RPG. This will be interesting to see, because obviously maybe a lot of people are going to be coming to this particular quick start who've never played a role-playing game but love Discworld. As the name suggests, it is a game where you play a role. Each player takes on the role of a character within the world, in this case within Discworld, and via the character tells a story with their friends. Sounds like we don't get really cool names. It sounds like the GM. It's just it sounds like GM and players. I mean, I guess it makes sense. It makes sense because it's based on our IP, and you don't necessarily, if you might not be playing guards. You might not be playing members of the Watch or something like that. But I'm always a big fan of getting names. Most role-playing games, including this one, have two types of person at the table. Most people are players. Oh, so it's talking about it now. And one is the game master. Players take on the role of characters, inventively named player characters or PCs. The game master, the GM, takes on the role of the world. They play the part of every other character in the game, all non-player characters or NPCs that the PCs talk to, walk past, interact and ignore, as well as the world itself. They are the narrator of the PC's actions and the world's reactions, the one who decides what happens next. The dangler of plot hooks, the doer of silly voices, the twister of the narrative, and the conduit through which the story unfolds. It's important to note that whilst the GM may have a better idea of what is happening than the players, RPGs are collaborative storytelling experiences. Everyone influences and directs the story through the characters' actions. The GM listens to their players, hones in on which aspects of the world and the story they are enjoying, and gives them more of that. But it's not their story alone. Oh, wait, I don't think you guys saw that. Never mind. Oh, I'm all for safety tools, powers of people, but couldn't there just be a standardized seal of approval by some non-profit or something? Just personally, not a fan in book. Maybe an unpopular opinion. I think this is the thing. It will absolutely depend on the game and the story you're telling, right? Sometimes, do you need to go through a whole bunch of safety tools for certain types of game, which clearly don't have those sort of like topics coming up. I feel like people use different things for different things. I know, like, for example, my wonderful co-host Hamilton, he uses play, fast forward, rewind, stop, pause, those ones, and for his games, because he prefers that conversation with the players. I personally don't do that myself. I we'll do the like check in, but I won't like say those words personally. People sometimes use a traffic light system of going, yellow, or people okay to go in, and it's like, like X cards and O cards and all that sort of thing. I think it literally depends on your personal preference as a GM or what you'd like to use, and just checking in with people. And as long as you're confident in using those safety tools and willing to have the chat quickly, like I said, I think my big thing, as always with safety tools, right, is it shouldn't take longer than the session itself to go over. I always remember this bit of, like, I played a game of Fiasco, and we had a session 0, which is obviously very important, but the session 0 lasted longer than the actual stream we did itself, and I was it's so frustrating to me, because there was a mixture of tech stuff as well. There was tech difficulties as well, but it felt like there was so much effort to be like, these topics are not on the table, but then there was no effort to be like, but what do we want to play? That's why I always talk about boundaries. We talk about safety tools, they're very important. Boundaries is something that you would really love to happen in the game, something that brings you joy. For example, my boundaries are always like, I like being put on the spot as a character. I love thinking out the box thinking. I love little spotlight moments with characters and monologues. I love those sort of things. And it just encourages people then to hear what makes, what they can see in the game. But wait, Fiona loves character monologues. Well, give her a chance to do that. That sort of thing. So I think there needs to be a balance. And I think the more efficient time you spend in this session 0 going over it, the better. But also doing it beforehand as well. Like, do this lines and veils, and then you can just quickly go over and go, cool, these are all the things. And you don't have to worry about it eating into the playing time. I think that's my thing. Yeah, different people, different needs. Exactly that. So I personally only really use like X card and lines and veils. I don't go any deeper than that necessarily, but I've played in games where we've used stuff like the O card, and that was really fun to use, but I don't know if I would necessarily use it for myself. So it's always nice to experience them, I think. Where were we? The core of the RPG is telling a story around the table, be it physical or digital, with your friends. So gather a group of like-minded people and enjoy the ridiculous and often emotional ride that is a great game of dice and GMs. The GM is a person at the table that supposedly knows more about what's going on than anyone else. They've clearly never seen my prep. They are the one with the better idea where the story could be heading. Could. The story could be headed where they think, but no plan ever survives contact with the players. Oh, so gotta put that in writing. Maybe I should have like a cross stitch of that somewhere. Players will constantly twist and change the narrative until it is unrecognisable from its original form, and the GM has to do some quite severe mental acrobatics to figure out how they got from A to point 3.2 to Venezuela. It does feel very Douglas Adams, doesn't it? I know it's Terry Pratchett. Something the GM does have more control of to a point is the tone. This is something to be discussed with your players before the game. Some groups will want to embrace the silly and outlandish aspects of Discworld, and others may want to dive into the political intrigue surrounding the governments of Ankh-Morpork, and yet more may want something that maybe showcases the world they know and love. Bear in mind that Discworld is a satirical setting, not a comedy one. Outside the Fool's Guild, there are very few characters that are intentionally trying to be funny, and inside the Fool's Guild, there are very few characters that succeed at being funny. The funniest moments in Discworld novels come from excellent wordplay and characters taking the events around them seriously, no matter how ridiculous things are on the face of it. Oh my goodness, come on, highlight the thing. The best kind of comedy is always that sort of thing where you take it seriously and heighten it. I've been in so many improv classes recently where people will just be silly for the sake of being silly, and they don't realize that being grounded in a scene isn't like, oh, we're going to be serious and do slow burn. Like, that is equally a very worthy part of comedy as well. But this is so true. It's like, you're not supposed to be intentionally funny. You're supposed to be like react, what's the word? React. organically, like naturally, like, you know, be yourself when you play these games. So I like that. I like the world is extraordinary, but you could be ordinary players. I very much like that. Players, am I right? I know, right? And then a really cool, like, a death on Death's motorbike image there. Again, no alt text, which is a shame. Also, I haven't mentioned there's these very beautiful, like, sort of like sideborders of the different like buildings and stuff, which again is supposed to feel like, again, these crowded sort of streets and stuff like that. There's a tiny little, oh, you can see it. There's a tiny little kitty cat on one of the tops up there. That's like, I love the detail of it. And then we've got a little Ankh at the bottom of the page there on the page number. All right. What is the system? Iron contains not just iron, but also the story of iron, the history of iron, the part of iron that ensures it will continue to be iron, and has an iron-like job to do, and is not, for example, cheese. Without the Naravidium, Cosmos has no story, no purpose, and no destination. Oh, come on, Fancy Alice. Yeah, I know. Just sit with me for a little bit, okay? Discworld is a unique setting, and it deserves a bespoke system to do it justice. Let me move it up a little bit. There we go. Yes. To do it justice. A system that encourages those random silly moments that RPGs and Discworld novels both embrace so well. A system that allows for flexibility and actively encourages puns, awful and amazing alike. In short, a system that makes you feel like you are in Discworld, and that is what we've created. And then it says, hopefully at least. We hate to have put Andy back into the Scorpion Pit, although it does seem to focus his mind beautifully. So our system is built on two core premises. The disc has a story it wants to tell, and left alone it will spin on as much as it has always done. And then two, the players will want to change the story to one more of their liking. Discworld itself operates like a story, and top research wizards have found that it is helped along by an element found in abundance on Discworld, the Naravidium. Naravidium? I'm always going to pronounce this wrong, you know this. So it is this Naravidium that the players are going to have to control if they want to forge their own story in a world that, frankly, busting at the seams with stories. The players will use their character and the dice to see if they have what it takes to beat the Naravidium into the shape they want. They need to be careful, however. Sometimes it beats back. And then obviously a whole collection of folks there on the big old turtle, which seems to have wheels. I know the orangutan is the librarian, right? That's the one I remember from the guards. Oh, let me move this a little bit so people can see. Ben Invincible says, there's a quote from a famous improviser like, don't try to be funny because it's a nightmare to try to elevate funny. Oh, that's true. The one I always go to, there's two. There's one I learnt recently, which was like, you can't heighten from blue, which is like, obviously if you say like a swear word or you make some sort of inappropriate joke, it's like, well, we can't go anywhere from there. Now you've kind of set the tone. It's not funny. It's just like, it's just awkward, which I thought was good. And then the one I always hear is like, if you bring a brick, and I bring a brick, we can build a cathedral on stage. But if I bring a brick, but then you bring the whole cathedral, well, where's my brick gonna go? And I always like that. It's I think it's Del Close. No, it's not Del Close, it's the other one. Oh, it's gonna be really bad. Can't remember his name. It's a famous British improviser that said it. And his book is downstairs, which is unhelpful. It's Improv for Storytellers. And he passed away last year. There you go. Find out who that improviser is. I want to say Will Hines. It's not Will Hines. Will Hines is still alive. Anyway, what do you need? There are a few things you'll need to play in order. There are a few things that you'll need in order to play a game of adventures in Ankh-Morpork. You should have most of them lying around, although much more specialised items, such as polyhedral dice, friends, and time, may require a little more work to acquire. Oh, that's so sad but true. That's good. Follow the clues to find the identity of the mystery improviser. It's a famous British improviser. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna blooming look. It's gonna be bad. Yeah, I've got Chrome off, so you guys can't see me type. Hang on. Impro for storytellers. Keith Johnson. There you go. It came off my Google. Keith Johnson is his name. Keith Johnson. I bring a brick. You bring a brick. We build a cathedral on stage. If I bring a brick. You bring a cathedral. Where's my brick gonna go? pen and paper, somewhere to take notes and something to take something to take them with. A pen and pencil are traditional, but this is the century of the anchovy, so go digital if you like. Whatever your preferred medium, taking notes will be useful for everyone to keep track of what's going on, who said what, and what that one NPC with a silly name that the party has adopted. And that one NPC with a silly name that the party has adopted, so now the GM has to keep doing that voice for the rest of the adventure. Oh, I see we've got the polyhedral dice here as well. I guess the D8 is the important one though, because it's coloured in a little bit. So, a full set of polyhedral dice, so D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, D20, and D100 for failing, attempting tests. Each shorthand given is a reference to a number of sides that die has, so D4 means a 4-sided dice, D20 a 20-sided dice. And we are fairly sure you can figure out the rest from there, although the D100 has to be contrary and break this mould. It is in fact 2 D10s rolled together, one which gives you the 10s, so 10s to 100, and the other one that give you the 1s, or the units. Alright, bye. The D20 and the D100 will only be needed rolling on tables, however, and not used in general play. As a result, you won't need them in this book. Interesting. I wonder if the GM has to roll then. Mostly D4 to D12. Okay. Dice inject an element of randomness into the story. Things will not always go your character's way. The narrativium in the bones of the disc may decide that you are simply not meant to do whatever it is you're attempting, and you'll have to figure it out how to achieve your goal regardless. Imagination. RPGs require a certain amount of imagination from both the players and the GM. The story will be affected by everyone at the table and may require a little bit of imagination to get it off the ground. I.e., it's not just your GM to think of everything, for sure. Oh, I'm guessing that's supposed to be like maybe an image of Terry Pratchett, perhaps? I will say, I'll just move quickly on, because I can see there's a naked nymph or something in the background, so I was like, oh dear. So puns or plays on words. No session of Adventures in Ankh-Morpork or the Discworld books for that matter would be complete without at least a few puns or plays on words. Be prepared to twist, wrangle and torment the English language to serve your needs or just make people chuckle. I would admit, I say this because this is a proper weakness of mine. I can't come up with like necessary puns quickly on the spot. There are games in improv like Dating Me is like, but obviously the ruder version of that. But like World's Worst, like Job or anything like that, or stuff like that, I'm really bad at because I can't think of anything funny. It always has to be physical. I can't think of anything like, Dating Me is like, I don't know, a vet. I'll bring the tranquilizers. I don't know. It's like it's that sort of terrible. Hate it. So instantly that's why I'm like, ugh. Friends, we can't help you with this one. Unless we're counted amongst your friends, in which case, hi, how are you? It's been too long. I know, we should organise a catch-up at some point. Next week? No, we're busy next week. Could you do the 25th? No? We'll message about it and sort something out, promise. It's funny, I was just trying to do something, I was trying to organise something for like a couple of weeks' time, and this very similar thing has just happened. You'll want to bring together 3 to 6 like-minded individuals willing to put up with puns, who are up for an adventure based on the historic byways and filth-covered highways of Ankh-Morpork. Obviously, you can play with as many players as you like. Ooh, there's a little bit of an extra space there. Or it's a little bit... yeah, there must be an extra space there. But once you get beyond about 5 players, making decisions and ensuring everyone gets their time to shine becomes exponentially more difficult. Likewise, only having 2 players at the table limits your ability to bounce off one another, and things can go in unexpected and fun directions. Adventures in Ankh-Morpork is intended to be played as a short-form storytelling game, or as a palate cleanser between long-form campaigns. Oh, interesting. So it's not necessarily meant for long-term campaign sessions. Oh. The adventure in these pages should only take one session of around 3 to 4 hours to complete, allowing you to get the feel of the game with barely any commitment whatsoever. There'll be some guidance for those who want to play longer form games, but the core system is designed to be like the Discworld novels themselves, a one-off adventure rather than an epic journey involving stolen jewellery and a lot of walking. How interesting is this? Because a lot of the times when we're looking at these RPGs, they often go, oh, it's either like it's a one-shot or you can do a longer campaign, but this is like, no, this is like a one-off story, could take several like parts, but it's a palate cleanser, so you can come back to it. So it is trying to like enact how it is in those Discworld books, right? That you follow the story of like the Watch in one of them, and then it's the Hogfather in another, the Going Postal people. So I like that there's no need to have like the same character do lots of adventures. Like you could bring them back, I guess. It's a bit like weirdly, I always think of Solemn Vale at this point. The Solemn Vale world is still there, but you don't have the same characters every time you go back to it, and that's for different reasons, obviously. But yeah, I like the idea that you could keep coming back to Ankh-Morpork, but you come up with different characters and you don't necessarily connect to the same story from before. Fair enough. Oh, that's a really cool image, isn't it? This sort of like the orangutan librarian reading through a book with like sort of symbols on the floor. Very I like the colours of this one. I really do. And again, this is something where I'd be like, oh, it's a little bit too detailed in places. Like you can see all these references, like the skeleton cat there, little imp person there, like all these things. Oh, surprise! it's the orangutan playing the organ. Nice. Gosh, I was gonna say, have they written on these? No, they've not. Again, and then playing the game. Alright, so a quick note before we get into playing the game. This is a quick start, so that means it's going to be stripped down rule set designed to get your character's feet hitting those cobbles as fast as possible. As such, there are some aspect of rules we have chosen not to include. So presumably character creation, I'm guessing. We have provided you with pre-generated characters and an adventure to muddle through because we're considerate like that. It feels very British, I kind of miss this humour. Also worth noting that this, while this is close to the final game, many a slip twixt dress and drawers, as Nanny Og is wont to say. Oh dear. Some of the content here may look slightly different when the full game comes out. I like that as a disclaimer. Again, saying that it's not all here, but also it might change in the full version. Totally fair. Okay, scenes. So the narrative of your game can be broken down into scenes, just like the Discworld novels. Each scene is a discrete moment. It takes place at a specific place at a specific time with specific people. The GM sets the scene for the players and then narrates how the PC's actions affect the scene. Once the players have done all they want to do, or in brackets, or can do, in a scene, the GM moves the action onto the next scene. The scenes can span minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, decades, and even eons. Or aeons even. No, it is eons, isn't it? If you really want them to. But realistically, most scenes within the book shouldn't take more than an hour tops. Once a scene has been set, the players are going to want to start fiddling with it. To do this, they will be using their characters, so player characters, PCs to be precise, and dice to take actions and attempt tests. String these scenes together in a semi-coherent manner, and oh no, Bjorn, strong in the arms, your uncle. Bjorn, strong in the arms, your uncle. You've gone and got yourself a story. Alright. Tests. So whenever players try to do something in a scene that has a chance of failure, they will need to make a test. No matter whether you are snooping about in intense political negotiations or trying to outdrink a dwarf, all tests are resolved in the same way. So, here we've got like a numbered bullet point. So the test itself will follow the same steps every time. So we declare an action, justify the action using traits. The GM determines the outcome of the outcome die. Roll the outcome die against the narrativium die. Get help, which is optional, and resolve the test, not optional. So, what does that mean? We've got declare an action. The player says what they want to do. If the GM thinks that they need to make a test in order to do so, then move on to the next step. Justify the action using traits. The player who declared an action decides which trait on their character sheet they're using to justify the action. It is encouraged to twist the meaning of your traits and use them in absolutely ridiculous ways to justify actions they have no business justifying. And this happens all the time, and I like that. I like it just goes, do it. Change what it is. Like, speak with animals. Absolutely, you can garble something to just frighten someone if you, like, speak to animals or whatever. I know that's a spell, not a trait, but, you know. GM determines the outcome die. The GM determines the dice that will be used to test in the test out of the D4, D6, D10, and D12. If the justification is absolutely flawless and is very much within the PC's wheelhouse, it is a D12. If the PC has no idea what they're doing and their attempt at justification is flimsy, then it is a D4. The D6 and the D10 come between these points as determined by the GM. The GM also decides the consequences for failing the test. The GM also decides what the consequences for failing the test will be. Okay, so if you're better at something, it feels more swingy if you're better at something, though. Surely, if you're better at something, well, hang on, we'll find out. Here we go. We've got a play example there. Again, it's nice that the play example not only has like this little like sort of like section header for it. It looks like it's got Moodeng as the logo, but it's also a slightly different color to indicate it's different, and it's slightly out. The layout of it is slightly out as well, so it shows that this is a play example. So I like that. It's a very subtle way of doing it. Roll the outcome die against the narrativium die. The player rolls the outcome die the GM has decided was appropriate. The GM then rolls the narrativium die, so the D8. Once the dice are rolled, the results are compared. If the outcome die has rolled higher, the PC has been successful. Oh, I see. It is an opposed check. All right, Evil Bro, thank you so much. I'm sure I'll see you soon. If the outcome die has rolled higher, the PC has been successful. If the narrativium die is higher, then the PC has failed and may now be subjected to unforeseen consequences or twists represented as new traits. Ooh, okay. The dice have the same result. If the die has the same result, then it is a tie. The PC achieves what they set out to do, but they also suffer the consequences as the new trait, twist, or both. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, now I see. I was thinking of another game where I was thinking like lower is better, but okay, you've got more chance to roll higher if you've got D12 against a D, and you don't add anything, it sounds like. It doesn't sound like you've got any stats. I guess it goes back to that whole thing of that these people are people and not numbers. Ooh, I like that. I like that idea. It'd be interesting to try this out. If the test is a failure, then one PC in the scene can spend 1 luck to try and help. This is risky, however, since it will also make the consequences for failing the test 1 degree worse and open themselves up to the consequences of the test alongside the original test taker. If they still want to help, they spend 1 point of luck, and then they repeat the first 2 steps explaining how they help and their justification for doing so. And then roll the outcome die the GM decides is appropriate. Their outcome die replaces the original outcome die. Ooh, okay. So if the test is a failure or a tie, then the PCs suffer now much worse consequences. Okay. Yeah, it's almost like a push your luck sort of thing. The GM does not re-roll the narrativium die when another PC decides to help, but the GM can at any point during the test decide to re-roll the narrativium die using an NPC's trait as justification. This second result replaces the first result, and the GM can only do this once per test. Interesting. Okay. And then we resolve the test. Excuse me. So after the dice are rolled, the GM narrates the outcome, whether it is a glorious success, a surprising stalemate, or an embarrassing tumble into the Ankh. They also describe how the PCs suffer any consequences, see page 18, for failing a test. If no player tried to help during the test, then the player suffering the consequences can spend 1 luck to reduce the severity of the consequences they suffered by 1 degree. Interesting. Look at these images at the top here. Again, sort of very much like a beautiful colour penciled drawing of various individuals sort of fighting each other. Look like very old men fighting sort of goblinoid type creatures. Again, no alt text. Okay, so if that's the main mechanic, I like that. So I guess because then we've got to think about the percentages of stuff. Like, you could still beat, even if you're really bad at something with a D4, you could possibly still beat the narrativium die. That's interesting. I wonder though, but there's nothing, you don't add anything necessarily, like all you can do is get help and then hopefully increase that die, like with somebody else rolling it, for example. So there's no necessarily rerolls. There's rerolls in that sort of sense, but there's no like adding anything or. So that's interesting. I like that. Anyway, group tests. There are two situations in which a group test is more appropriate than individual tests. The first is when everyone wants the same outcome, but only one success is necessary to achieve it. For instance, when people are trying to gain information about the same thing from different sources. The second is when everyone wants the same outcome and one failure will stop them all from achieving it. For example, when a whole party is trying to move around without being spotted. For both instances, the players state their actions and traits and the GM decides what die they roll. It is perfectly normal for different players to be rolling different types of die in a group test. All the players then roll. The GM only rolls the narrativium die once and compares each player's outcome die to that narrativium die. The GM then narrates each result. For those tests where everyone wants the same outcome and only one success is necessary, the outcome die that rolls the highest and has the most the outcome die that rolls the highest has the most advantageous outcome. For example, the most pertinent clue. Excuse me. All the other results add to their own flavour and support, if successful or if a failure. They undermine the most successful outcome. If the narrativium die has the highest result, the players all suffer consequences. For example, gaining incorrect information. That's what it says there. For tests when everyone wants the same outcome and one failure will stop them achieving it, the outcome die that rolls the lowest is counted as the result of the test. Any PC that's involved in a group test may not help another PC on the test, but if any PC is not involved in the group test, they may help as normal. Okay, fine. Basically, you can't help each other, you can't spend luck or anything like that. As previously stated, there are no special rules for combat. If a fight does break out, it is treated as the same as any other test, with a slight focusing of the narrativium die to represent the opposing force in the conflict rather than the world or the story in general. Interesting. Okay. I mean, I'm a big fan of that. So 1,000,000 to 1. Sometimes your players will surprise the GM with an absolutely absurd, ridiculous, or genius plan that is so outlandishly unlikely it makes you stop and go, it's 1,000,000 to 1 chance, but it might just work. In these situations, the GM can rule that the PCs automatically succeed on their plan. These auto-successes should be very few and far between. Remember that any attempt to force a 1,000,000 to 1 chance is doomed to failure. I do like that though, like maybe you do it like once per session going, darn, that's really good. Sure, I want to see how this works, you know. I quite like that. Alright, moving on then to characters and traits. So characters in Adventures in Ankh-Morpork are a collection of traits held together within an approximate shape of a person. In this way, they're not so different from their players. These traits are recorded on your character sheet and are how your players use their PCs to interact with the world around them. In the full game, you'll spend time lovingly crafting elaborate backstories and slightly amusing names for your character. However, for this quick start, we've provided pre-filled in character sheets to get you going with a minimum of fuss. Nice, and then we've got an actual picture here of Constable Cliff. And I like it, we've got notes, like it's like a full-on image. I guess if I zoom in a little bit, can I... What? Yeah, it's not blurred or anything like that. They've literally, that's really good. So look, so you can actually read it. Oh, look at that, they've got pronouns as well. Great. So we've got name, organization, background, niche, core, and quirks, a little bit of backstory, consequences and notes, the look points, and then a picture. And that's all there is. Yeah, no stats at all. Incredible. Let me zoom out a little bit. One more, I think, for luck. There we go. So here's a quick run through of the character sheet and what all these things mean. So we've got the character names and pronouns, the group they belong to, so that's the organization, their species and background, niche traits, so their experiences and where they fit in their group, their core, so their outlook and how they react to the world. Oh, my fingers went there. Ooh, weird. Quirk traits, the odd little idiosyncrasies and eccentricities that make their character who they are. A brief character description there. A place to note down any consequences they get in play. Look, a measurement Notes. Look, a measurement of what your character can get away with. Oh, they only get 4 look here, though. And character art. After all, a picture says 1,000 words. Oh, nice. I like how it changes to this sort of font when it does the bullet points, so the numbered bullet points here. It feels, I don't know, I think it adds to it. Maybe it's not the easiest to read, but that's okay. Again, it is screen readable, so. All of these things are traits. These traits take the place of the more traditional statistics and can be used in a test to argue the applicability of your actions. They tell you what a character is good at, as well as what they struggle with. They can be used to influence the world and the stories the characters find themselves in, while also providing information to help you play that character at the table. The only exception here to this is luck, which tracks your favour with the lady, and therefore how much you can get away with before things start catching up with you. Characters have access to everything a trait could encompass. So let's take the example chosen completely at random and in no way related to this adventure whatsoever. A character who has the trait the Watch, which is going to be in organisations, yep, will have access to everything that entails. Official badge, shiny breastplate, one's short sword, in brackets, or weapon appropriate to the species, and then AM dollars of 38 a month, plus allowances, so that's their salary, isn't it? Same is true of every trait. A troll is incredibly strong and smart in cold weather. An iconographer has all the tools of the trade needed to keep those imps painting. And someone who remembers the good bad old days probably knows their way around a back alley or 12. In brackets, provided that they haven't been built on or otherwise closed down for the sake of hygiene. Luck. Luck is a measure of your character's favour with the lady. And there's a thing at the bottom here. So the lady is one of the gods of the disc, and those of the feuding, grumbling, all too human entities who live on the done manifesting, playing games with lives, and dice, and sometimes snacks. It is spent in 2 ways. Firstly, to decrease the severity of a consequence, and secondly, to help another player with a test. Both of these cost 1 luck, and only 1 luck can be spent per test. It is up to the players whether they wish to take the safe option and tone down the consequences, or risk another roll to try and gain a success. To regain luck, you have to do things that pique the lady's interest. Excellent or unusual or downright weird roleplay, ideas, and use of traits can all earn you back a point of luck at the GM's discretion. And awarding luck. The GM is the representative of the lady at the table. As such, the GM can award luck to the players for excellent roleplay, ridiculous plans, amazing or awful puns, and outstanding bastardization of the English language. This should be kept rare enough for players to feel like they've earned it rather than expect it every time. And then there's an example here, by example. Excuse me. Ooh. Everything in traits. Everything on your character sheet is a trait. Even your character's name can be used as a trait if you think it'll justify your character being good at a test that they're attempting. Traits are not necessarily good or bad, but situational. So for example, having the trait "I spend more time in the drum than the library" would help you if you were trying to win a drinking contest or track down a specific unscrupulous person, but hinder you if you need to do some occult research. The easiest way to think of it is, I have X trait, therefore I would be good at Y action. However, one of the key aspects of Pratchett's work is wordplay. As such, we're not only expected, but downright insist the players bend, twist, bludgeon, beat, and otherwise wrangle their traits to fit scenarios they were never meant for, and justify actions they should have little to no business being associated with. When justifying a trait for a test, the players should state why it would be useful for their actions, and then the GM can decide the dice value. At the end of the day, deciding the exact dice value for a particular test is much less important than rolling them. Nice, I like it. Yeah, I've got the travelling case there, I remember that. Consequences. The thing about actions is that they have consequences. These manifest in gameplay as as a new trait for the PC's twist in a narrative or both. These traits are temporary and only apply as long as they are relevant. Some will go away on their own at the end of a scene, and others require PCs to spend time removing them. There are several degrees of consequence: inconsequential, minor, major, and exceptional. Ooh. Inconsequential consequences are things in which that will cause small inconvenience for the PC. You know, getting a paper cut, being overcharged for a sausage in a bun, or getting the trait has a kick me sign stuck to their back. Minor consequences will cause an inconvenience for the PC. You know, twisting of the ankle, losing money at the races, or gaining the trait has a rumor going around. Major consequences will cause problems for the PC and affect those around them. Calling the librarian a monkey. Ooh, very bad. Losing chrysoprase's money at the races, or gaining the trait wanted by the Thieves Guild. And finally, exceptional consequences are threatening to the life and livelihood, which will cause the PC to be removed from the scene and potentially the story. This should be a conversation between the GM and the player how they wish to proceed. Some options can include a near-death experience, being wanted by the patrician, and a magical mishap, and any other appropriately exceptional exceptional consequence that feels narratively appropriate. The PC can gain a point of luck during a test to say that again. A PC can spend a point of luck during a test to decrease the degree of a consequence by 1, unless another PC has attempted to help them in the test. What's that? This is not a challenge. Oh, there's another one here. Since there are no health points in this game, you may be asked how and if characters die. This is generally handled through an exceptional consequence to a failed test. In the full game, there will be rules covering this, but we sincerely doubt that anyone will be dying in the span of this adventure. The GM is, of course, free to give someone a brush with death if they really screw up a particular role, provided that they remember to talk like this. Oh, so it's doing the Hogfather. It's the death of the deaf person, actual deaf, talking like that, isn't it? This is not a challenge. All right, and then we've got an example at play as well, just to go through the whole thing, which is nice. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see it. So that's cool. Like again, it's not necessarily special. It's actually it's interesting. That's quite far, that column there, isn't it? I'm a big fan now of people like doing like actual coloured labels. So if this Ellie green, so the GM one was in green, for example, and Renee was in blue. Maybe someone else was in red or something. Or colours that people could see if they don't suffer from colour blindness, or if they do suffer from colour blindness, just to like break it up a little bit, because it does feel a little bit. Again, it's not like a script, is it? It's definitely, it feels like a little bit blocky and not broken up as well. Oof. And then we've got, there's Carrot. See, Artinus. And then we've got the actual adventure called Up in Smoke, which we will not look at. What I will do, though, we're going to look at I'm going to sit through, but I want to see what the player reference sheet looks like. Oh, so here's the character sheets. We've got 5 of these here. Detective Bartholomew Haranhan. Okay. Igorina. Cliff, we looked at before. Surly Underhand, and Ms. Gobet, and ampersands. Ampersands, okay, that was what it is. And here's a reference sheet. Oh, let's look at this reference sheet. Okay, so it's not like maybe it's not something you'd print out. Maybe you'd hand this around as a PDF. So I'm going back a little bit. Oh, it's on the back of the plate. Oh, I like that. It's got a lot in here. So it talks about the consequences there. We've got the dice as well. Got the consequences and stuff. So it has it all there. I think it would be nice if this was like on a clean background so we could print it out. Maybe more black and white. But yeah, otherwise, and that's all we're going to do. We're not, again, like I said, I wasn't going to look through the adventure because I didn't want to spoil it for people, and maybe it's something that I would run at a different time. Look at these images. Great. So what do we think? Again, a quick sort of whistle-stop tour through this quick start of the Discworld. I like it. I like the idea behind it. I like how it's written. Obviously, it made me laugh. It made me think, again, like I said, I've not read a lot of Terry Pratchett's work, but it did remind me of that sort of sly humour. Reminds me of Douglas Adams a lot, which I read a lot of Douglas Adams when I was a kid. So that sort of sly British humour really coming through there. I really like it. I liked how I mean, I don't think there was much of a primer, I'll be honest, on what Ankh-Morpork was. It was just like that sort of paragraph to give you an idea of it. And I think that's fine for this quick start, to be honest with you. I wonder if in the main core book, are we going to get like a proper like... It probably is going to go into a lot of detail about what is an Ankh-Morpork. I like it told us where it was most likely to be set, this particular story, so people don't get really hung up on the sort of chronological order of the stories. And I feel like... And again, maybe it's in the adventure as well that you'll see those key locations and you go, oh, this is such and such place, etc. I guess that's the thing I would love to see. Again, I know we're not looking at it, but the adventure itself, like how, how much of that humour is distilled in maybe the descriptions of stuff that you will have to come up with. I love the justification of like using your skills to be like, oh, well, I used to do this. Can I do X? I've got X. Can I do Y? Because that feels very natural to players who do that already. They're like, but I've got Mason's tools. I can, do this. Like I always remember, like, it was a flaw that I had as a character. Like I ran 30 miles in one day. Or it was something like that. I was running 30 miles in one day to escape the horde that was coming against my people, or something like that. It was something for an elf flaw or something like that. So I'd always bring it up as the thing of like, I once ran 30 miles in one day. So I like that to justify things. I just think that's really fun. The luck stuff, I like the idea of it. Again, it is just pure die chance. It is not about stats, and I very much appreciate it. So yeah, it feels very, very different to what Modifius normally does, which is more crunchy, the 2d20s, and then like the sort of stats and attributes and stuff like that I've seen before. So yeah, I like it. Would I run this? Sure, I'd run it. I'd give it a go. I think maybe there'd be a bit more like I guess for new players I think it wouldn't be a trouble so much because there's not like dice stuff. I wonder if like other players who are used to other systems might find it a little bit tricky, and there might be a lot of like looking at their character sheets quite a bit and be trying to work out stuff rather than role playing up here, like looking at people. So yeah, and I'll be interested to see, like, as someone who does a lot of improvising, like as a GM and very little prep, how this would work. Like, would I be able to react quickly? Like those consequences stuff, like I like the idea behind them, but maybe there's no examples of them. So like having the D20 and the D100 to roll on tables, that sounds very helpful. It sounds like there might not be anything like that in this particular quick start that might help me, which is fair. They don't need to. But yeah, I think overall, like, I like it. It's very compact, very sort of like, I think it's well designed. Shame about there's no alt text. It is what it is. I like I guess I feel like because the artwork is so nice and so different, and it's obviously very, very appealing. And like they're trying to like appeal to a whole wide range of audience. It would be nice to have either alt text or having like a little description here on the page itself. I don't think it would take away from anything. I like how the headings are all screen readable as well. That's always good. I like the little borders as well. Or it feels like that very much you're a part of this place. Yeah, I think overall, but what am I getting at? Safety tools was good. I don't know. Do I feel the need to rush out and play it now? Do I feel excited about it? I don't currently, and that might be just because I'm not in the right headspace for it just now. I like the idea. I like playing it. I think I would have to. Yeah, I think my next step would be read the Quickstart adventure. Would that be something I want to play? Like, does it make me want to? It doesn't feel like a barrier that I've not read that much Terry Pratchett for sure. But I guess once I read through that adventure, would I be willing to be like, oh, I should read more of this Terry Pratchett stuff, you know? So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm a bit indecisive about it, but I really love the idea of the system. I think that is really cool, and I would love to try that system out. So there you go. Anyway, thank you, team. If you've enjoyed this, here's again, get the quick start. It's free on the Modifius shop. You will have to like check out for it. There's no way you can just click and download it, unfortunately. It's just a way that both Modifius and I think Renegade Games work like that. You have to check out and then you're allowed to download it. I think that's how they just keep an eye on numbers. But yeah, go check it out. I think it's a nice idea. I think you've got everything you need to start playing. And I do like the humour of it. I think they've done a good job in sort of like encapsulating that, but without being A, patronising, and B, distracting from the story it's trying to tell. It's got enough in there. So there you go. But yeah, thank you so much. Let me go back to big Fiona face. Yeah, thank you very much, guys. If you've enjoyed this, come check out What Am I Rolling, as always. We are a twice-monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast where we do lots of RPG one-shots and interviews. Our interview went out recently on Sunday talking about mega games with Grant Howitt and Matt Sanders from Rowan, Ruck and Descartes, and about our experiences at a Gen Con about running these big mega games that use TTRPGs as a sort of basis. Really fun, really interesting. Definitely something that I would love to explore more. As someone who's come from a sort of academic background who uses scenario-based learning, and then being able to influence other people's games and work together to solve something was really, really fun. And also lots of improv, which is always good. If you're like, Fiona, don't give a toss about that sort of thing. Dragons looked interesting. Sure, come to check out the DM's Book Club, a weekly book club podcast where we talk about some Dungeons & Dragons and discuss how we might include them in our role-playing campaigns. What have we done? We've done Greyhawk recently from the sort of Dungeon Master's Guide 2024, which was interesting, fun. Tomorrow, what day are we on? Tuesday. Days. We're doing Barrier Peaks from the Quest from the Infant Staircase. We had a look at that, and we had a look at some other bits and pieces. So basically, we sort of had a big sort of wide talk about like what should we look at. So yeah, come check that out. That will come out tomorrow. And yeah, I'm sure I'm doing other stuff, etc. But I guess what else can I say? Sorry, brain has gone a little bit fuzzy at the end of the stream. So like, I'm hoping to come back in mid-November. November? It is November. Mid-December to do some more Too Long Didn't Read streams before Christmas. I will be away next couple of weeks. I'm off on my travels to just do my own UK tour of seeing people. So I'm going to do that. So I won't be able to stream, unfortunately, but I'm going to have some more streams and stuff in the new year and get back into it again. I had a bit of a rough patch beginning of November just because I was busy doing nothing. But I'm glad to be back to this, and I'm glad I finally got to read this actually, because I know people are very excited for Discworld, and obviously the Kickstarter made a lot of money. So I feel like this Quickstart is very promising compared to other Kickstarters that have been out here recently, not naming any names, Neopets, but having Quickstarts that we can look at these sort of things is just really fun. What else can I say? I'm sure there's lots of other things that are useful for me to talk about just now, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So I'm going to love you guys and leave you. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, whether it's afternoon or evenings. I am going to go get some food and work on my words. All right, friends, I will be back. And also for those folks that celebrate it, happy Thanksgiving or just happy Thursday when that happens. Unfortunately, there won't be a Too Long Didn't Read there. We'll be back mid-December for some more TTRPGs. Much love as always, and keep playing games. Let's find the end of stream button. I'm gonna do my wave and say goodbye for now, friends. Bye for now.